This week I learned there's no hangover quite like a food hangover. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update. Hope everyone had a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and hope we're all just kind of, wearing the stretchy pants today and just kind of feeling a little better about yourself. If you don't celebrate, hey, I hope you had a great weekend anyhow. So guys, weekly update time. There's been some fun stuff going on this week, but as the holidays do dictate here in the States, sometimes some things kind of fall by the wayside, but sometimes you find yourself lucky and have a little bit of extra reading time. That's what kind of happened to me this week. So let's kick into it, guys, with what am I reading? I did finish Empire of the Damned, as like I told you guys last week. Can't say very much about it because embargo stuff. But what I can say, without just regurgitating everything I said last week, was I had a great time with it. No sophomore slump, no middle book syndrome to worry about here, guys. You're going to be very happy with this. If you liked Empire of the Vampire, you didn't really care for Empire of the Vampire, I don't know that necessarily this is going to be the one that brings you around to it, because it is still very much that same world with some new wrinkles. You get to see more of that world. You get to see more characters in that world, and I'm quite fond of some of the newer characters that Mr. Kristoff did bring up in this book. So you're going to be very, very happy, again, if you like that first one. I don't think there's going to be anything, but stay tuned for my review of that closer to release date in the first quarter, coming in 2024. Also, again, I did finish Pillars of the Earth this time. I think it was 3 straight weekly updates. I said I was reading this, but as you can see why. Hefty book, but guys, every bit as great as it was in my memory. There are some things that I have seen some folks that were reading it for the first time as I was, where they were saying they didn't like how it felt like it kind of had an ending, and then it just kind of like summarized everything that happens after that. I think that's what it is where you just kind of feel like you needed to tie up all those loose ends, and as you can see, and I mean this as a compliment, Ken Follett doesn't do anything, quickly. He takes his time to get there. He's very much like a Robin Hobb in that way, and that he's going to tell you how the sausage is made. He's going to kind of go through those things slowly but surely and tell you everything. So I think the way that he kept this from going, another 400 pages was to kind of sum up some of those events. But I felt like it tied up everything wonderfully. I enjoyed it even more this time than I did, like I said, as a teenager. I was still very, very new to reading anything like this as a teenager, but at this age, a lot of things that might have either went over my head or not been of as much interest to me at that age, I really did appreciate this time. I don't feel like there's a wasted word in this book. It could have been 400 pages longer, and I would have been very, very happy. So to me, guys, this right here, this and Gone with the Wind just like are just alone on the peak of the mountain when it comes to historical fiction for me. I will always compare every historical fiction I read to those two books, and that's why I think maybe the genre has been pretty more missed than hit with me, because these books have raised that expectation so much. But guys, wonderful, wonderful book. I hope you will pick it up if you didn't this time. It seems like there's a lot of people either who are reading it for the first time, or they have picked it up since I've been talking about it, and they do plan to read it. And I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you guys let me know what you think about it, because it's just the best. I love it. So what do you do when you need to come down a little bit from something that thick? Well, guys, you pick up some manga, and that's what I did, guys. I read 4 volumes of One Piece in like a couple of days, like a day. Volumes 14, 15, 16, 17 of One Piece. This is, let's see here, we did Whiskey Peak, and we did the Drum Island arc. Now, with Whiskey Peak, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. I had a real problem with the Baroque works. I think that the naming mechanism that he uses, where you have a pair of, let's just call them assassins, and the guys all have a number assigned to them, like Mr. 1, Mr. 2, Mr. 3, ranked off the ranking. And they're always paired with a female who goes by a day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. And it got really confusing. And to me, it really made that section convoluted. Like, I don't remember who any of these people are, outside of just like recognizing their faces that they keep popping up, because I couldn't tell you, oh yeah, that's Mr. 4, or that's Miss Wednesday. I could have never told you that, because it just got so crazy, and I just felt like it went on a little too long. There's this bit with a guy who just trying to turn everybody into wax statues, and it just went on way too long. I like the giant stuff, But outside of that, Whiskey Peak was just like okay, and I think that's maybe why I got stuck there for about a month. Not necessarily just because of that. I did get an arc of Empire of the Dam that took priority. But once I got to Drum Island was really good. I liked Drum Island a lot. Got introduced to Tony Chopper, who I know is a beloved character. And I was skeptical. You know, my kid had been watching the anime, and I saw Chopper, and I was like, what in the world? What am I getting myself into? It's quite good. It's quite a cool character. And again, Sensei Oda, or is it Oda Sensei? I'm still learning at this thing, guys. He continues to be the master of the backstory, because he even made the backstory for this reindeer. Amazing. It was so good. I was absolutely enthralled. And it's one of those things where you're reading the series and you're thinking, this is just a goofy, wacky adventure. I'm having a good time. And you will be having a good time. And then he can come out of nowhere and kind of punch you in the heart when you're not expecting it. And I think this series does a good job of getting you to kind of let that guard down. Think you're just here to have a good time. And then when he does hit you with something emotionally powerful, it really hits well. So, yeah, again, I think he's batting 1,000 when it comes to these backstories for all these characters. And that's a cool new character I'm glad to have on board the Going Merry at this point. But a good way to wrap up the week, and there are a couple other things, but let's go ahead and tie those into what am I going to read, because I am still working on them. I did this thing where I was like, okay, I'm looking at the rest of my schedule for the year. There's no way I'm going to be able to finish everything before December. So what do? I pick up a book that's not on my schedule. And that's Drizzt. It's been like almost a year, guys, since I read a Drizzt book. And a viewer of mine, Pug Shorty, great guy, thank you so much. He sent me this visual dictionary kind of thing for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons of Drizzt, of Just the Forgotten Realms Drizzt. And I just was thumbing through it. I was like, good God, I miss these characters. So I had to pick this up. I picked up the Legacy. This is book number 1 in Legacy of the *𝕬𝕠𝕠𝕜, about halfway through it at this point. Guy, I love these characters so much. The companions of the Hall are just so much fun. I enjoy all of these characters and just their adventures. And what's really cool about this, I'm really liking it because they're doing all this stuff, underneath the, I don't want to get too much far into it, but they're underground, so we're close to the Underdark. And Drizzt's past is obviously going to maybe catch up to find him. And everyone tells me that, Legacy, the first book, is a 4-book series of Legacy of the *𝕬𝕠𝕠𝕜. Everybody tells me that this is their least favorite of the 4. I'm enjoying it a lot. So that's very, very encouraging to me. I finally meet this ℓ𝕨 character that I know a lot of D&D fans, a lot of Drizzt fans talk about. Have you met ℓ𝕨 yet? Because when I was saying I liked Artemis and Trari, a lot of them were saying just wait until you meet ℓ𝕨. Well, I've met him now. Don't know too much about him, but I learned what a Drider is, and that's terrifying stuff. So not being a real big Dungeons & Dragons player and playing this, you always have a visual medium you can go to and look at. And that visual dictionary really did help out. So thank you, Pug Shorty. You are the best. I do love it. Anytime I get more art of Gwynevere, and the art is next level for Drizzt, guys. It's so good. But I did pick up the next book on my list, which was Tiamat's Wrath. This is book number 8 of The Expanse, guys. My plan right now is to read this and book 9 kind of back to back. Not that far into it. What I'll say about this is I'm still kind of reeling because let's just say my favorite character in the series kind of gets off page and kind of in the prologue of this book, and it kind of shocked me. I wasn't expecting that, because I guess in this world you just kind of expect your characters to go out in a blaze of glory or sacrificing themselves for somebody. And when it's kind of like a natural death off page, it's kind of shocking. And you look at your things and you say, yeah, that's real life. That's how real life happens. We don't all get to complete our character arc and things like that. It just really, really shocked me and had me reeling kind of for the first 100 pages of this book. And I feel like I'm finally just getting my footing again. But I do like where it's headed. And I am glad I'm reading both of these back to back, because I could tell it's going to be like book number 7 in that it's going to kind of have not necessarily a cliffhanger, but it is going to have a lot of unresolved things that you want to know about immediately. And that's why I'm glad I've decided to do it this way. But yeah, I'm quite broken up about this because it was just unexpected, I think, that happened. But again, The Expanse, it's a great, great series, guys. And I know I'm going to love how it ends. But I am starting to get apprehensive now that I have lost one of those characters that I said I was worrying about. Now I'm like, well, fuck, everybody's on the list now. Who else is going to go? So it's it's sad. It's sad when you get this far into the series, guys. You start to really be connected to those characters, and you're sad to see the series end, and you're sad to see some of those characters go. And when a future as violent and as unexpected and unpredictable as this, that some things probably aren't going to go the way that you are hoping. So we shall see. But I am enjoying my run through The Expanse, and you can see as I'm obviously impacted by this character, this fictional character, these words on a page, this character death here. that some things have been done right in this series, and I'm excited and also nervous to watch the ending here. And then I'm going to get back on One Piece, guys. Arabasta is the arc. I'd like to finish before the end of the year the Arabasta arc. Now, is it Arabasta or Alabasta? Because I feel like he's very fickle, and he does it both ways in this. And I think it's that R and L thing, like Zolo and Zoro, where he can't make up his mind. So I'm calling it Arabasta because that's the way my kid was saying it, and he's been watching the anime. And by the way, he's a spoiler machine. He already spoiled some 2 huge things for me. I had to like smack him, tell him to shut up. Anyway, so that's I think volumes 18 through 24. That's what I'd like to finish before the end of the year. But that's kind of everything. And like I said, I will be trying to go into Leviathan Falls, which will be Expanse Book 9, right after I finish Thomas Wrath. So last week of November here is going to be Thomas Wrath, and first week of December should be Leviathan Falls. And that'll be the best way, I think, to wrap that up, so I don't have to deal with a big cliffhanger. And then it's back to Realm of the Elderlings. So another one I'm going to be probably broken up as I get further and further along with it. How about this week on the channel, guys? A couple of things did get out. One of my big ones, my last 2024 preview. My November is always my preview for the next year, and December is my wrap up for the current year. So my last of my preview videos was the most anticipated novels of 2024. And of course, I knew that the big thing was going to be, where is the Stephen King book? If you like it dark. That is a short story novella collection. That is obviously not something that I consider a novel. That's why it's not on there. So I had to put it on the pinned comment, but of course it doesn't matter. Nobody reads the pinned comment. Where is the Stephen King book? Why I didn't put it on there. That's why, guys. Don't worry. Stephen King will get his spotlight in 2024. But as for the rest of it, I think I kind of did it halfway. As there's a lot of the comments are about, they're excited about this book, and I'm like, it doesn't have a date. I don't know that it's coming out next year. So I did 5 books I know are coming out next year, and 5 books that I would like to see come out next year, could still come out next year. And then of course one was Empire of the Damned, which I have already read. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to do that. But outside of that, I think that Empire of the Damned will be my most anticipated book of next year. But now I have a new one, which I think no one that has watched this channel will be shocked to find out what that book is. But it's very exciting. It looks like it's going to be just a great year. If some of those other 5 that I mentioned do end up with release dates and come out, it's going to be an even better year. But I'm very excited about it because I look back at the 2023 list and I was like, it was like Lightbringer and some stuff. There wasn't a ton of things that I was really, really highly anticipating like I am this year. I can't wait to read several of those, and I've actually gotten one from a certain Harkonnen named Richard Swan. He already sent me one. Might start that a little earlier than I expected, and that's always very, very exciting. And then I did my reading plans for December before Richard sent me that arc. I was like, well, I've already kind of locked down my December reads, and I already, with the Driss book, I think I'm going to have a hard time finishing all these. But I did talk about 6 books in December, probably only going to be 5 because one of them is a Kickstarter edition and it looks like it might not be coming in December. The author actually, he emailed me right after that video came out and said it's looking like it's going to be January. So that'll work out fine. A couple of big ones in there, going back to McCammon. McCammon is another one of those who he lets the page count get away from him sometimes. And I had no idea that Speaks of Nightbird was originally 2 volumes and they just combined it into 1 volume now. So that makes sense why it's such a beefy book. But that and lots of other ones in December. Wrapping up The Expanse, like I said. Not wrapping up the penultimate book of the Realm of the Elderlings and other things coming in December. Some books that people have been begging me to read for a long time that are going to be coming in December. And it looks like it's going to be a fun month. I can't wait. I will be, I got vacation next week. I got a vacation the last week of December. We had some use it or lose it time. A lot of people get mad. They're like, why do you get so much vacation? And I'm like, I get a lot of vacation. That's the perks of working for a company for a long time. But it had some use it or lose it time, so I went ahead and used it. And that gives me a lot of extra reading time. And hopefully recording time. We'll see, because sometimes the kids are off at the same time. But as for recording time, let's take a look at some next week plans on the channel. I do have a couple of videos I'd like to do. I know I did say I'm kind of going down to 3 videos a week. I might actually pop a 4th one out there once in a while. I think next week might be one of those because, like I said, I will be on vacation, so I might have time for an extra video. Something I want to do is called Slump Busters, and that doesn't mean exactly what you think it means. I'm talking about, all the time people get, I'm starting to have reading burnout. What would you recommend to kind of get out of this funk? So I'm going to talk about some authors, some books, some series to kind of switch things up if you're starting to have like fantasy burnout or just burn up overall. Some books I think that can maybe help you find your mojo, get your groove back, and get back into reading. So just some authors that I always turn to, or some genres, or just some series that I like to go to if I start feeling a little sluggish, start feeling like I don't really want to read anything. These are things that just kind of always give me that shot in the arm and make me feel a little better. Because I get asked that question a lot, so I thought it did justify having a video made for it. So I'll try to get that one out this week. If Slump Busters isn't the best name, hey, just let me know. Going to be doing another talk about nothing. And this one, here's the deal. This one was actually a placeholder. Me and Christopher Rocchio are going to be doing Talk About Nothing some more. And the thing was, this was originally what we had bookmarked to be our Dune Part 2 spoiler talk. Because it was supposed to come out. And we thought we'd give people a couple weeks. And then we would get together and do our spoiler review like we did for Dune Part 1. Well, instead of just canceling, we said, well, let's just keep that and let's just do another Talk About Nothing. So I told him, I was texting him the other day. I was like, hey, we still have this spot. Do you want to get together and still just like hang out or something? I know you're writing. I don't want to interrupt your flow if you're writing. And he's like, God, no, I could use the break. So blame me, guys, if Sun Eater 7 gets delayed because we are going to keep our appointment. And we're going to be doing some Talk About Nothing. That's going to be during the day because, like I said, I will be on vacation. So that'll be during the day hours here in the States. That'll be around lunchtime here in Houston. But we haven't actually nailed down an exact time for that yet. But it'll be sometime on Tuesday. And that will be live. So you guys want to join in and ask questions if you can. I know not everybody's obviously going to be off. But if you can, and obviously if you are a different time zone around the world, you'll be available to ask the author of Sun Eater, Mr. Christopher Rocchio, whose just star is rising. Their star is rising. I'm seeing like just about every big booktuber bigger than me are starting to review Empire Silence now and find out this big hidden secret of the sci-fi community, Christopher Rocchio. But that's my dude right there. I can't wait to talk to him because me and Christopher, we could talk for hours and never run out of things to talk about. So it should be a lot of fun. And then I'm going to be doing another Good and the Bad, but it's going to be a little different. When I've done Good and the Bad before, it has always been about a book series, and usually it's about a book series I like. But this one's going to be a little different. I see everyone all the time complaining about how awful Goodreads is. So I said, well, I think there's a lot of good about Goodreads too. But yeah, there's some things that bother me as much as they bother everyone else. So I said, I think I can talk about Goodreads. So it's going to kind of be a little bit of a deconstruction of Goodreads, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what I wish they would change, what I wish, Storygraph could kind of take that place from. It's like one of those things where it's like nothing's really kind of stepped up and kind of took its spot, because you would think Storygraph's pretty close. But still, it doesn't feel like it's quite to the point where it could take away from, like, everybody was like, oh, I'm so mad about how Twitter keeps getting changed and I'm going to go find something else. You've never found anything as good to replace it, so you can't, right? That's kind of how I feel about Goodreads. I'm going to talk about that. And also, again, like I said, some of the things I really do like about it, some of the things I do appreciate about it. And I think that could be a fun video, but that's just what I come up with. This is what you get with end of the year content. You start thinking about, hey, I'm going to do some different before I start getting into my wrapping up the year thing. And that's what I came up with. I thought it justified having something talked about because, again, I like to find the good in just about anything. And I think I can find a lot of good in Goodreads, as well as some things that obviously grind our gears all together, I think. How about some TV and movie talk things before I go? Finally got to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. It's not called Part 1 anymore. I learned that after I watched the movie. Apparently, the box office was so disappointing that they decided to drop Dead Reckoning Part 2, and I think Part 9? Or is it 8? Hell, I don't know. I think it's Part 8. Part 8 will have a different title now. It's not going to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2. So I learned that after it. Again, great. I don't think they've made a bad Mission Impossible movie since 2, and even 2 had some things that were going for it. It was just a product of its time, I think. But I think the only thing that this didn't do is I thought Mission Impossible 3 was better than 2. 4 was better than 3. 5 was better than 4. 6 was better than 5. So I think the only thing that this didn't do was beat Fallout. I still think Fallout's the best Mission Impossible movie, but this was damn good. And again, I don't think that there's really a miss in this series, really. I think that Mission Impossible, it does seem like it gets better every time. They always try to one-up it, but they never do that sequel thing where you just go bigger to the point of absurdity. The stunt sequence in the train, amazing. The car chase, they found a way to make it a little bit different and fresh, and actually had some humor in it that actually had me laughing out loud a few times. I love the addition of ℙ𝕦𝕣𝕒𝕤𝕣 to the cast, not just because she's stunning, and she is, don't get me wrong, but I thought she really, really played well off of that group. I really liked her. I wish they'd find a way to get Vanessa Kirby even more into these movies because I think she's fantastic. But yeah, you just got that group. You got Luther, you got Benji, you got Ethan. I'm always on board for that. There was an event in the movie that shocked the hell out of me, but I do think it was something the series needed because I think there are things where you're like, okay, they're doing this stuff all the time and everyone always makes it out. Well, no, sometimes not everyone's going to make it out. And I think that was something we hadn't seen since the very first entry in the series. And I think it was something that needed to happen. It just kind of surprised me the way that it happened. And I can talk more about that down below. I don't want to spoil anything if you still haven't seen it. But guys, yes, it's maybe a little long. Like all these Mission Impossible movies, sometimes I feel like they might get a little long. But I never once found myself looking at my watch. I was completely engaged. And it had me like kind of scared. Again, guys, all the warning signs are there about AI. Why is no one paying attention? Why is no one paying attention? You guys need to go back and watch Terminator, damn it. I'm telling you. But yeah, again, another great entry, and I can't wait for the next one, which is supposed to be Tom Cruise's last, and it will be my last because I don't want to see the series go on without him because I think that he's the driving force. He's what makes that series go. It would just be too weird without him there. This is going to be another one of those segments where I like to do where I call it Irresponsible Parent. That's me. My oldest, I'm that parent who lets him watch R-rated movies. With me, it's like the violence, it's fine. I feel like he's headstrong enough; it doesn't really bother him, and he obviously knows it's fictional. It's, and I've seen some of the video games he plays. It's not that bad. By comparison, with me, it's like I like to keep the sex stuff. I like to keep that kind of out of his eyes because I feel like it's not going to just make me uncomfortable. It's going to make him uncomfortable. It's going to make everybody uncomfortable. So I kind of try to avoid that. So if it's just hyper-violent or bad language, I'll let that slide. So I decided to show him RoboCop, the unrated director's cut of RoboCop. Now, I was much younger than him when I saw this, guys, and when it originally came out in theaters, we saw all that stuff. It was later on that they edited out the part where Murphy gets executed. But it's aged. Look, it has charm to it, and there's some things where you're gonna be like, it looks a little goofy, but I mean the storyline and the heart in that movie are still there. And he loved it. I mean, it's not a surprise. He said a lot of things about it made him think about like Terminator on a different timeline. It's kind of what he said, and I like that a lot. But yeah, it's such a fun movie, man. So many things about it. I still to this day use so many quotes. I'd buy that for $1. I say that all the time. My wife hates it so much. But so many Clarence Boddicker lines in that. Can you fly, Bobby? So many things about that movie have just been ingrained in my mind because when that movie came out, man, it was huge in the 80s. And, I never really hit those peaks again. And I remember in 2014, a friend of mine was like upset because he thought the remake was going to be good. And I was like, really? You're surprised that wasn't good? Really? Really, did you see the same trailer that I saw? But I did the good parent thing and I lied to him and told him that no sequels were ever made, which starts up a new can of worms. Some people say RoboCop 2 is good, but 3 is really bad. I thought they were both bad, and I don't even want to talk about the TV show or the cartoon, all that stuff. Like, the first movie, classic, and everybody should see it. And understand, yeah, sure, it was made in the 80s. Some things, Ed 209 might look a little goofy to you. When the guy's falling out the window, it might look a little funny. But again, that was just a product of its time. And the movie was ahead of its time. And I think for that reason, it has aged wonderfully. Check out the unrated director's cut if you can. That's really all I got, guys. Me and my wife are planning to watch Oppenheimer. Did get that on digital. It's just, trying to carve out 3 hours, for when you can watch a movie like Oppenheimer while you're just exhausted from the holidays and stuff. It just kind of hasn't happened yet, but we do very much want to see it. We both love Christopher Nolan movies. We both love Cillian Murphy. So I have no doubts we're going to love it. But very excited to watch it. Just haven't done it yet. And playing Super Mario RPG, the Switch re-release of the classic Super Nintendo game. Haven't really got that far into it, but it's very, very cool. It's one of the best games of the Super Nintendo era. And it's one of those that I thought they would kind of be lost to the ether forever, because Nintendo doesn't like to re-release their stuff, and that's got a pretty good overhaul, I guess you would say. It still retains all those classics. You can even change it back to the original Super Nintendo music, which I thought was a nice touch. But I'll talk about that more once I get a little deeper into it. But what a good year for video games, man. There's been some disappointments, sure, but I started thinking about doing my top 5 for the year. I don't know, it's gonna be tough. It was a really, really great great year. But guys, that was my week. Why don't you drop in the comments, let me know how your week is going. What are you watching? What are you reading? What do you listen to? What are you playing? Drop in the comments and let me know, guys, and have yourselves an awesome weekend.